Hi everyone. I am the guy standing in between you and lunch, so I apologise. Really light topic as well. We're going to talk about why everybody's leaving their jobs. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Henry. I'm the managing partner of Albany. This is the shameless self-promotion bit of my talk. Albany are a specialist executive search and recruitment company. We only work with technology and product leaders. That's all we do, day in, day out. We help predominantly venture capital and private equity-backed businesses to solve complex challenges in tech and product. That takes us into CTO, CPO, and we also build engineering and product teams. So if you are looking for your next move, or indeed if you're hiring, please come and find me or one of my wonderful colleagues at some point during the event. We've been proud partners of CTO Craft for quite a lot of years now. I forget how many it actually is, but this network's really important to us. Having a close connection to the network as an organisation such as ours is absolutely key, and getting a read on the underlying sentiment across this network is invaluable. Over the last 3 years, we've worked with the CTO Craft team to put together a compensation survey, and it started as a means of answering the simple question of, am I being paid fairly? Which the answer is always the same. It kind of depends. And the compensation survey has evolved every year, and it's become, and I hope, a really valuable guide, a guide to the community to help you navigate the topic of compensation, whether it's with your existing employers or whether it's when you're interviewing for a new job and you want to know, where you should be benchmarking yourself in the industry. It's evolved even further, and this is the first compensation survey where we've really tried to get a sense of the underlying sentiment in the market. And I think that was particularly important for us, given the market that we've been through, and I think everybody in the room would agree that it's been pretty difficult. And there was one finding that really stood out for me this year, and it was that 41% of the people that took the survey were looking to leave within the next 6 months for one reason or another. And at first we were like, holy shit, that's a lot of people. But actually, as an organisation, we probably speak to 100 plus technology leaders every week, and the market's been pretty bad, and businesses have been through a tricky time. So that does actually track that 41% of you lot are open to opportunity. And yes, great for business. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. It really is. But when you dig into the reasons why, it's pretty interesting. The number one reason, by quite a long stretch, was a lack of faith in leadership and strategy. And in this sector, that often shows up when strategy pivots from growth to survival. A leader joins to transform payments, reinvent credit, modernize core banking, and suddenly the roadmap becomes all about cost saving and compliance. The person that was hired to drive growth is now being asked to harden controls. It's not a failure. It's a natural reaction to where the market is. But when the why behind the mission disappears, when belief goes with it, I'm sure you've all seen this before. The mission changes, the purpose blurs, and the excitement that got that leader through the door has gone. So there's a definite shift in sentiment and outlook. And I've spoken to countless brilliant CTOs that have walked away from roles, not because they've lost faith in the tech, that's still interesting to them, but they've lost faith in the people leading the strategy. And it's that alignment between the board, the CEO, and the technology function that's so incredibly important to get right. It's actually quite a fragile thing. And once it breaks, it's very, very hard to repair. The second one, unsurprisingly, is culture. and culture and leadership go hand in hand. So I would certainly have expected that. And cultural strain, I would say, is amplified in financial services, actually, with layoffs, restructuring, constant regulatory scrutiny. That creates tension. And when those cycles hit, culture starts to get really tested. When leaders spend more time on governance and risk than on building great products, it's that shift over time that eats away at creativity and morale. And my team have heard me say this a few times. If you saw my last talk, I think I said it then, but culture eats compensation for breakfast. It really does. Culture's the daily experience. It's how decisions are made. It's how people are trusted, how success is celebrated. And when culture erodes, performance inevitably follows. Third driver is company performance. If you've got the first two wrong, then this one's probably going to hit as well. And they're all linked. But boards have been under extraordinary amounts of pressure. Global funding in this sector has been at the lowest since 2017. Valuations have halved in some categories since 2022. And investors have become far more forensic about cost discipline and time to profit. So when company performance dips, typically controls tighten. Leaders come under enormous pressure. And that often means a shift in priorities and a slowdown in innovation. For people whose careers have been built on pace, on building, on shipping and scaling, that can be quite frustrating. I had a CTO tell me recently that they joined a business to reinvent the future of lending, and now they're managing remediation plans. It's that shift from creation to correction that's often the breaking point for a lot of people. So let's flip it to a slightly more positive vein. Why do people stay? The reasons are actually quite straightforward. They stay because of leadership. If they believe in the leadership and they believe in the strategy and they're inspired by that and they want to go on the journey. They stay because of culture. Typically, that's because they get ownership. And they believe they stay because of trust. People stay when they feel part of something bigger and when they still believe in the journey. It's not limited to growth journeys where creative flair and innovation are core pillars. It's entirely possible to maintain and build on an excellent culture through a shift in strategy. How you do that is a much, much, much bigger topic, and I don't think we've got time to get into it now. But work-life balance ranked just as high as culture in our data, and it's not just working from home. That's not what it's about. It's about being trusted to define your own rhythm. It's about being given the headspace to think strategically rather than firefighting constantly. And yes, compensation matters, but only when those deeper needs are met. So what it tells us is that retention isn't about throwing money at the problem. It's about leadership, belief, and empowerment. When technology leaders are given genuine ownership, not just of systems, but of outcomes, they stay. When culture is transparent, when communication is honest, when accountability is shared, teams thrive. And when that happens, compensation is more of a hygiene factor. It's not the reason why people turn up, unless you're being poorly paid. I've skipped ahead too much. The challenge ahead now is that the environment has changed faster than expectations. We've gone from growth at all costs to profitability, from innovation to resilience, from scaling to sustaining. And these aren't negative things at all. It's just a reality of where we are. And that shift has left many leaders caught between what they were hired to do and what they're now being asked to do. So boards and CEOs have an opportunity. That opportunity is to close the gap, to bring tech back into the conversation about the future and not just using them to clean up the past. It reminds me of a TV program I've been watching with my wife recently. SAS Rogue Heroes. I don't know if anybody's seen it. It's brilliant. BBC iPlayer, it's still on. But there's a character in there called Paddy Mayne. He's I've heard a giggle, somebody's seen it. He's one of the most famous soldiers in British military history. He's one of the founders of the SAS, and I think if you've seen the programme, you would probably describe him as being one of the maddest human beings on the planet. But there's a scene where he was asked to train the French soldiers in North Africa. He did so rather reluctantly, and he had some rather interesting training methods. But he kept asking or demanding that the soldiers asked why they were doing certain things. And that was quite a novel thing to happen in the military. But his reasoning was simple, and I'll use far cleaner language than he was using. But if the plan fails, as plans often do, but the soldiers understood why they were doing something and what the goal was, they'll find a way to succeed. And that's leadership. If you couple that with a culture of trust and ownership, you've got a winning combination. Because when people understand the why, they don't wait around for new orders. They adapt, they solve problems, and they find a way to win. So in closing, the real question isn't why are 41% of leaders leaving? The real question is, what can we do to give them a reason to stay? Because when leaders stay, teams believe. And when teams believe, organizations thrive. That's me.